다시 와. 언니가 안아줄게. 옳지. 레이라 됐어요. 아빠는 어떡해. 블랙클럽은 보자. 아니?
How to survive in Korea. One room. So, you're surviving in Korea. If you've signed a contract for a one room, obviously you're a pro. But the real deal begins now. Step 1. Housewarming. No need to buy toilet paper, diffusers or hand soap. You'll get them soon enough as housewarming gifts. And some are bound to pile up. There's nothing better to serve your guests than milpaeyu nabe. If you have Korean friends coming over, don't forget the extra garlic. Step 2. Garbage disposal. With great power comes great responsibility. You've had a good time, so let's get to work. It might be tempting to sweep everything into a trash can, but you have to separate your garbage. Not bothered? Beware that negligence is punished with a fine or public humiliation. Step 3. Drying rack. You're excited to live alone in Korea, but the fate of these items, hanger, storage, or a hanger. Go get fresh coffee outside. Jogging doesn't cost anything, and nothing beats instant rice. But keep one item around so that you don't get too lonely. Step 4. Pros of living alone. No mum. Cons of living alone. No mum. A new towel doesn't magically appear. You have to do the laundry regularly. If anyone gives a towel as a souvenir, take it. Get rid of mold immediately. Don't be lazy with the vacuum cleaner. Housework is an endless affair. Overwhelmed? Give your mum a call and thank her for everything she's done. Did you survive in your one room? Wait, you have an unwanted visitor. Call someone you fancy. Could be the right person for the job.
내가 지키고 있던 가끔 떠오르면 괴롭던 난 망가질 차례가 됐어 넌 모르게 난 빌었지 다 망가지라고 그러면은 함께 할 수는 있겠지 내 이름도 가끔 어렵지만 빈 그릇과 반찬통을 새기 나를 매일 습관처럼 되뇌이며 살고 싶어.
아리랑 아라리요 아리랑 고개로 넘어간다 힘껏 달려 멈추지 마 세상 끝까지 가자 아리랑 아리랑 아라리요
Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. The United States has extended its pause on threatened military strikes against Iranian energy infrastructure by 10 days, pushing a critical deadline to April 6. This comes amid major escalation by Israeli forces, which announced it had killed Iran's Navy commander. Military chiefs from 35 countries around the world, including South Korea, held talks on plans to reopen the Strait of Hormuz once the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran ends. Led by France, the talks focus on potential post-conflict operations to restore shipping once hostilities ease. Starting today, South Korea has raised its fuel price cap by more than 200 won per liter as global oil prices continue to climb. The new cap will remain in place for 2 weeks through April 9th. For the second time this week, U.S. President Donald Trump has extended an ultimatum for Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz to international shipping traffic, noting peace talks are going very well. But as Washington allows a brief window for diplomacy, regional tensions continue, following Israel's assassination of the Iranian naval commander overseeing the blockade of the waterway. Our Kim Do-yeon has the details.
The United States has given Iran another reprieve, halting threatened military strikes on its energy infrastructure to allow room for diplomacy. U.S. President Donald Trump announced a 10-day pause on the destruction of Iranian energy plants, pushing an existing deadline from March 27 to April 6. Taking to Truth Social on Thursday, the president noted the extension was requested by the Iranian government and that ongoing talks are progressing well. However, the rhetoric from Washington remains forceful. During a cabinet meeting, President Trump asserted that Iran's severely degraded military capabilities have left Tehran desperate for an agreement. He also issued a stern economic warning, stating that the U.S. seizing and gaining control of Iranian oil reserves remains a viable option if negotiations fail.
Who wouldn't negotiate? They are begging to make a deal. We'll see if we can make the right deal. And if they make the right deal, then the strait will open up. Hormuz Strait will open up.
The potential reopening of Strait of Hormuz is closely tied to the latest major escalation by Israeli forces. On Thursday, Israel announced it had killed the commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy.
This man has a great deal of blood on his hands, and in addition, he was the one who led the closure of the Strait of Hormuz.
This key military figure was directly responsible for overseeing the ongoing blockade of the critical maritime transit route. Netanyahu also claimed the killing was a coordinated strategic effort with the United States to achieve broader wartime objectives. The combination of a tactical pause from Washington and a strategic strike from Israel leaves global energy markets and international supply chains highly volatile. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
France says its military chief has held talks with counterparts from 35 countries, including South Korea, on plans to reopen the Strait of Hormuz once the U.S.-Israeli conflict with Iran subsides. According to France's defense ministry on Thursday, the talks focused on potential post-conflict operations to restore shipping once hostilities ease. Officials say the plan could involve a strictly defensive mission, including escorting commercial vessels and ensuring freedom of navigation through the strait. The defense ministry stressed that the meeting served as an opportunity to gather positions from countries willing to join a joint effort to help ensure safe maritime navigation in the strategic region. So the United States has once again decided to delay a threatened strike on Iran's energy infrastructure, this time extending by 10 days. For more on this, we're joined today by Dr. Baek Seung-hoon, researcher at the Institute of Middle East Studies. Dr. Baek, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you for having me to your show.
So this is the second time President Donald Trump is extending the deadline. So what's the U.S. strategy here?
My sense is that the U.S. strategy is coercive diplomacy. Trump is keeping the threat of force in place, but delaying the most escalatory option in order to see whether military pressure can produce a negotiated opening of Hormuz without triggering a wider regional energy war. That matters because a prolonged disruption there could remove 13 to 40 million barrels a day from global supply. So Washington is trying to balance leverage, diplomacy, and market stability all at once. So the risk is that repeated extension may buy time, but they may also convince Tehran that the U.S. is more constrained than it wants to appear.
I see. And the White House says talks are gaining momentum, but Iran denies engaging in any negotiations with the United States. So both sides are describing things very differently. Why are the two sides sending conflicting messages, and what do you make of the latest developments in this war?
Both sides are sending conflict messages because they are speaking to different audience and trying to preserve different forms of leverage. For the White House, saying that the talks are gaining momentum serves three purposes. It reassures markets, it signals to regional allies that Washington is still in control of the escalation ladder, and it increases psychological pressure on Tehran by suggesting that Iran is looking for an exit. For Iranian side, publicly denying a negotiation is about regime legitimacy. Tehran does not want to look as though it is negotiating on the bombardment or accepting American terms from a position of weakness. So what we are seeing is not necessarily a contradiction between diplomacy and denial. It is a familiar pattern of indirect diplomacy paired with public posturing. So as for the war itself, the latest developments suggest neither side has achieved decisive political victory. The United States and Israel has inflicted serious military damage on Iran, but Iran still retains enough capacity to keep the conflict costly. So especially through missile attack, regional escalation, and disruption around the Strait of Hormuz. So Washington has pursued some strikes, and it is clearly testing whether military pressure can now be converted into diplomacy. So my reading at this is that the war may be moving into a bargaining phase, but it is not yet moving into settlement phase.
I see. And while it's still unclear who the Trump administration is holding talks with, the United States and Israel have reportedly removed 2 senior Iranian officials from their target list. So is Washington trying to signal that they're not going to harm them and is encouraging them to come to the negotiating table?
Yes, I think that is the most plausible interpretation. So that Iranian Foreign Minister Arakchi and Parliament, the speakers, the head, the Ghalibaf were taken off Israel hit list after Pakistan urged Washington to intervene, precisely because killing them would have damaged any remaining diplomatic channel. That does not mean the United States suddenly trusts those figures or has identified them as a future partners in a broad rapprochement. It means something narrower than more tactical. If you want diplomacy, you need surviving interlocutor. So in war like this, there's an open and unspoken distinction between target who are militarily expendable and official who remain politically useful. By pulling back from strike on those individuals, Washington appears to sending a limited but important signal. We are still leaving room for an off-them. So at the same time, I would not overstate the significance of this move. The Israel official insists no Iranian leader is permanently off-limit. So this is less guarantee or safe than a temporary diplomatic holding pattern. So in other words, Washington is not offering the trust, it is offering a narrow window. The message is essentially, we are still prepared to talk, but not indefinitely and not without major concession. That is a coercive signal, not a conciliatory one.
Speaking of peace talks, Iran has rejected a 15-point peace plan proposed by the Trump administration, and instead they issued their own demands. What do both sides want from each other, and do you think the two sides can actually reach a deal?
At the broadest level, the United States wants Iran to emerge from this war strategically weakened and structurally constrained. The American proposal includes removing or dismantling Iran's enriched uranium stockpile, halting enrichment, curbing ballistic missile development, and ending support for regional partners and proxy groups such as Hezbollah and Hamas and Houthis. From Washington's perspective, this is not just a ceasefire package. It is an attempt to rewrite the terms of Iranian regional power projection. But Iran, by contrast, wants a deal that look less like surrender and more like reciprocal, like de-escalation. So the Tehran is demanding a permanent halt to attacks, compensation for wartime damage, recognition of its position regarding the Strait of Hormuz, and no concession on its core defensive posture, especially missile range. So Iran also wants any broader settlement to address the Lebanon front, which show Tehran is still trying to negotiate regionally, not just bilaterally. So can they reach a deal? Yes, but probably not a comprehensive one in the immediate term. The gap is simply too wide. So the U.S. wants rollback. Iran wants to guarantee and face-saving reciprocity. So what looks more realistic is an interim arrangement. Limited de-escalation, a pursue in selected strikes, indirect talk through mediators, and perhaps a narrow understanding on maritime passage and escalation control. So a full strategic settlement is possible only if both sides lower their maximalist demand. So right now, they have not done that. So I would say a deal is possible, but a grand bargaining is still unlikely in the near term. So there is a possibility that the Trump administration will going to extend another concession and then start doing the bargaining for about 3 or 4 weeks before the summit meeting with China begins.
I see. So not anytime soon. And Dr. Park, before I let you go, last Friday, Iran fired missiles targeted a joint U.S.-UK military base in Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. And that place is 4,000 kilometers away from Iran, and that's roughly twice the range Tehran has publicly claimed for its ballistic missiles. So how far can Iran's missiles actually reach, and how serious is this threat?
Iran always claimed that they have the peaceful spaceship program. So I believe 4,000 to 5,000 is their maximum, but I don't believe they have a capability to hit United States because 4,000 is not enough. They need 12,000 to actually reach the United States, which is three times longer range of 4,000. So, I mean, but they do have capability to hit Israel in any place of Iran territory. So they are kind of like showing that, you know, even in the mountainous area, hiding space, they could shoot and they could hit Israel and all the U.S. bases within the Middle East and their boundaries. So that is an important signal that Tehran have shown. But I don't believe they have capability to actually hit or strike United States yet.
I see. All right, Dr. Beck, thanks so much for coming on today. We appreciate it.
Pleasure is mine.
South Korea has raised its fuel price cap by more than 200 Korean won per liter, with pump prices expected to climb into the 2,000 won range. And at the same time, the government is moving to restrict naphtha exports for 5 months as Middle East tensions disrupt energy supplies and raise concerns over shortages. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
South Korea's second fuel price cap took effect at midnight on Friday, raising limits by more than 200 won, or 15 cents per liter in just 2 weeks, as global oil prices continue to climb. Under the new cap, gasoline is set at 1,934 won, or about $1.43 per liter, while diesel is capped at 1,923 won, roughly $1.42. Kerosene is priced at 1,531, or around $1.13 per liter. Even with the measure, retail fuel prices are expected to enter the 2,001 range, or about $1.48 per liter, as pump prices had already been trending higher. Consumers say the burden is growing, with monthly fuel costs rising significantly.
I used to spend about 200,000 to 250,000 a month on gas, but now it's gone up to over 300,000 won, so it definitely feels like a much heavier burden.
The government says the adjustment reflects rising global oil prices while expanding tax relief to ease the impact. Fuel tax cuts have been widened to 15% for gasoline from the previous 7% and 25% for diesel from the previous 10%, lowering prices by up to 6 cents per liter, with a larger reduction for diesel due to its role in industry and logistics. Finance Minister Koo Yoon-chul says the goal is to balance market pressures with consumer relief. The new cap will remain in place through April 9th, with officials warning prices could continue to rise in the coming days. Authorities also say additional tax cuts remain possible if global oil prices climb further. Meanwhile, South Korea is moving to stabilize supply. The government will begin restricting the export of naphtha, used for manufacturing plastics and chemicals, for 5 months starting Friday, as shortages deepen amid the Middle East conflict. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Resources say the move follows supply disruptions after strikes on Iran, with South Korea importing about half of its naphtha through the Strait of Hormuz, a key route now effectively closed. To support domestic industries, authorities plan to expand low-interest loans and may raise import credit limits. About 11% of domestically produced naphtha exports will be redirected to local buyers. Officials say the measures are aimed at containing both rising consumer costs and growing supply risks as global energy uncertainty continues. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And the Korean government is doing all it can to reduce the economic impact of the Middle East conflict on daily life. A supplementary budget plan is set to be submitted to the National Assembly next week, urged by the president for swift processing. Our Ian-jin reports.
The government and the ruling Democratic Party are pushing for a supplementary budget proposal set to be submitted to the National Assembly on March 31st for swift processing. The announcement was made Thursday morning during a consultative meeting between government officials and DP lawmakers. This is part of efforts to mitigate the economic impact of the prolonged war in the Middle East. The plan is aimed at easing the burden of rising fuel costs, stabilizing livelihoods, and supporting small and mid-sized firms.
The 2026 supplementary budget proposal was developed to respond to high oil prices resulting from the war in the Middle East, as well as to support the livelihoods of vulnerable groups, such as small business owners and young people, to minimize damage to domestic industries and secure supply chain stability.
With the extra budget, the government plans to not only compensate oil refineries for losses incurred due to the government's implementation of a price cap system for petroleum products, but also to support the expansions of oil reserves to ensure the stable supply of naphtha and other rare earth elements. To reduce dependence on fossil fuels in the medium to long term, the party and government will also use the budget to support the distribution of residential renewable energy, such as solar power. Projects to promote public transport use for energy conservation will also be expanded. The extra budget will also expand assistance to support vulnerable groups, which includes low-income earners, small business owners, and young people, along with efforts to eliminate blind spots in welfare services to ensure that daily livelihoods are not affected by the Middle East conflict. Support funds will be discussed further and finalized at a later date. The government highlighted that this supplementary budget uses the excess tax revenue expected this year for the benefit of the people and that it would not issue additional debt. As President Lee Jae-myung urged for swift parliamentary approval to minimize further economic damage. 이은진, Arirang News.
South Korea's convenience stores are under transformation. They're now betting on localized experiences, turning stores into K-food destinations, and even running hubs. Our Kim Jun-ong explains more.
A library of ramen fills a convenience store in Myeongdong. At the heart of a bustling tourist spot, this K-ramen specialty store showcases a wall nearly 3 meters tall, lined with around 170 different varieties.
Since we get a lot of foreign visitors, we've organized the ramyeon by spice levels. We also placed popular items like banana milk up front for easier access.
Customers choose their ramen and move to a cooking station, adding sides like kimchi and kimbap to recreate a local way of enjoying the dish.
I mean, it's kind of the variety of ramyeon, how you can see here, and like the process how to make it with the machine. It's very easy, so it's very nice.
I tried something where the Netflix show was, the cook was selected, so it was very good but very spicy as well.
Elsewhere in the same building, the lower floor showcases souvenirs, K-beauty items, and K-pop merchandise, attracting anyone looking to experience Korean culture. Such trend comes as South Korea's convenience store industry saw the number of stores decline for the first time last year after nearly 4 decades of steady growth. Having long relied on expanding store networks to boost buying power, the model is now showing its limits as the market saturates. In response, the industry is now turning to new strategies. It's not just foreign tourists that are being targeted. On the bank of the Han River here in Yeouido, this store attracts local runners, offering everything they need before and after a run. With running as a hobby on the rise, this store offers lockers for storing belongings, along with a curated section dedicated to running gear. Changing rooms and a powder room add to runners' convenience, while a photo zone completes the experience.
I run 4 times a week. I came here once and liked it, so I came back. There are more energy gels and drinks than in other stores here. I also find the changing room really convenient.
Such specialized stores have emerged in part due to the growing dominance of online retail.
E-commerce has become central to Korea's retail landscape. Convenience stores, once defined by accessibility, now need to evolve beyond that. Strategies that focus on analyzing each local market and providing products and services tailored to local demand are becoming increasingly important.
Amid changing retail trends, convenience stores are redefining themselves as spaces designed for experiences. Kim Jun-ong, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Chu Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. A New York federal court on Thursday began proceedings against the ousted Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on narcoterrorism and drug trafficking charges. Prosecutors say Maduro directed a government-wide conspiracy that moved cocaine into the United States through Colombian rebel group FARC. Maduro and his wife Celia Flores pleaded not guilty to all charges. Meanwhile, Maduro's lead attorney threatened to walk off the case over a funding dispute. U.S. sanctions are currently blocking Maduro from using Venezuelan government funds to pay his defense fees. The presiding judge questioned the government's justification for blocking the payments, but declined to dismiss the charges. Wall Street posted its biggest single-day loss of the year on Thursday as the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran drove oil prices higher and pushed the Nasdaq into official correction territory. The Nasdaq fell 2.4%, ending more than 10% below its October record high. The S&P lost 1.7% and the Dow dropped 1%. U.S. crude settled up 4.6% as disruptions to oil shipments through the Strait of Hormuz showed no sign of easing. The OECD said on Thursday that the conflict has wiped out a previously projected upgrade to global growth. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy arrived in Saudi Arabia on Thursday on an unannounced visit. Ukraine is currently advising Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, and Jordan on countering Iranian drone attacks in exchange for the high-end air defense missiles those nations possess. Meanwhile, European allies meeting in Finland on Thursday pledged to intensify action against Russia's shadow fleet of sanctioned oil tankers. A drone strike hit a sanctioned Russian-linked vessel in the Black Sea that same morning. The International Olympic Committee on Thursday confirmed that only biological female athletes will be eligible to compete in women's events at the Olympic Games. Starting with the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics, the IOC will require all female category competitors to pass a one-time SRY gene screening, a saliva or cheek swab test that determines biological sex development. The IOC cited fairness and athlete safety as the basis for the policy. Limited exceptions apply for athletes with rare sex development disorders.
Along with a huge rise in afternoon temperatures, there has been a big rise in dust levels as well. Today looks like being worse with additional dust forecast to move in later today. In particular, the capital region and inland Gangwon-do province could reach very bad levels during the morning and again at night. Meanwhile, dry weather alerts are being issued across much of Korea. And as you know, nationwide fire alert is currently at their lower level, so fire safety is a must. And this afternoon will be as warm or warmer than yesterday. Seoul will be getting up to 20 degrees Celsius. Daegu will be much warmer at 25 degrees under sunny skies nationwide, but skies will be blurred with layers of dust. Warm spring weather continues through the weekend, but air quality will stay in a bad range. So make sure to have a face mask when heading outdoors. Then some of the capital area is forecast to have a rainy start to the new week.
Now that's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.
I heard that 2026 is a special year for Arirang TV as it will mark its 30th anniversary. So I would like to congratulate Arirang TV and all the teams on this occasion. Also would like to say that Arirang TV is important for Belgian viewers because this is a channel that allows them to to listen to stories and to hear what is happening in Korea. And I think that such international broadcasting are crucial for people to communicate and understand each other better. So again, I wish to congratulate Arirang TV, and I wish that it will definitely goes on with the broadcasting in Belgium, and so helping our people to understand each other better.
Curious about what's special about K-content?
In recent years, Korean cultural content has taken the world by storm.
So, what's your favorite K-content? Movies, dramas, music, exhibitions?
Are you ready to take your pick?
Starting with globally acclaimed K-movies. It's no longer rare for Korean movies to receive awards at international film festivals. And we can't talk enough about the K-drama sensation.
It's not surprising that drama filming sites go on to become major tourist attractions.
When we are on the topic of K-pop, we can't leave out idol groups. They are the driving force of K-pop.
K-pop idol group members do not only have exceptional singing and dancing skills, but they have the looks too. I'm a huge fan.
I really like Korean underground music. These days, talented K-indie bands are recognized overseas as well.
Oh, and Korea also has a lot of music festivals. You can meet musicians of all genres at these events.
Exhibitions happen in Korea all year round.
I also enjoy going to the theatre. There's no shortage of musicals, plays, and performances to choose from. So keep an eye on the theatre scene.
Then there is K-design, blending traditional and modern elements.
K-fashion, leading trends.
K-beauty, which takes beauty to the next level.
K-content, receiving praise the world over. Watch it, experience it, and enjoy it.
The Korean wave is drawing more fans from all over the world. Local consumer prices continue to hover at the 2% success rate in April. Turning to robots to allow the visually impaired the chance to better indulge in cultural experiences. Like the number of hybrid cars are registered in South Korea has surpassed 2 million with this locally developed Yuri rocket.
Arirang.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you is Friday, March 27th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Kyun.
Thanks for having me. Happy Friday!
Happy Friday! And also, Moonju's with us.
Thanks for having me today.
and both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we're heading to the final stretch of the work week, and the upcoming weekend feels more enticing than ever before because it really feels like spring has finally arrived. The weather is warmed up and the air feels lighter. It's the kind of weather that makes you want to step outside even for just a quick walk or a coffee break in the sun. So, Kyun, I'm curious, do you like outdoor activities?
I do indeed.
I can tell, actually.
Can you tell just by my outfit? Yeah. I grew up playing soccer, tennis, and even rugby back in when I lived in Australia, and these are all just spring-summer sports. I also enjoy being out in the sun casually, just for a cup of coffee, and even head to like a brunch cafe where there's like an outdoor tables, which is not easy to find here in Seoul.
Right.
But if there is one, I'll definitely go for that table. However, I have to admit that the air quality here in Korea has been quite bad last few days, including today. So unfortunately, it like really forces me to stay indoors as much as I can and just rather just hit the gym instead of going outside for a run. But usually on a good day, even if it's cold, if the air quality is good, I would step outside, go for a run for about like 20-30 minutes, which I really enjoy.
I mean, the weather I feel like is quite deceiving because right now in Korea it's like really nice right now, but like you said,
it's warm, but it's just warm. Like once you breathe in all the air, you'll be like, oh, I can feel my throat kind of clogging up. So everyone, do mask up if you're in Korea today.
Yeah.
So what about you, Moon-ju?
I mean, I don't run often, neither have I never participated in marathon. And, bad air quality, that's a great excuse.
That's a great reason to not go
for me
outside
to stay at my place, right? And not run. But, I am aware that running has become very popular these days. And my friends run regularly. And whenever I visit Hangang, of course not to run, just to chat with my friends in the car.
And eat good food.
Yeah, and food. I see lots of people, running along the path. And additionally, many people run in meaningful events these days, like Liberation Day Marathon or various charity runs. So I think it is inspiring to see people enjoying their hobby as well as, participating in worthwhile competitions that commemorate significant events and help those in need.
Right. So it really shows how running has become part of everyday life here, not just as a workout, but as something social and meaningful and also fun. So we're going to talk more about this, but first, let's take a look at the screen. The long stretch of winter finally seems to be behind us as warmer temperatures and sunnier days signal the arrival of spring. With the change in season, outdoor activities, mainly marathons, are picking up pace with running growing into a major trend, especially among younger generations. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at why the running craze among Korea's millennials and Gen Zs has been going strong for years, the growing complaints surrounding the trend, and how to enjoy running in a fun and smart way. Just as we saw in the video, running isn't just a hobby anymore. It's become a full-blown movement. It's really showing up in the scale of events we're seeing across the country. So how big has Korea's marathon scene become recently, Kyun?
It's becoming bigger and bigger year by year, thanks to the influx of many young people actually joining the running community and of course the marathon. In mid-March, the Seoul Marathon, often considered a dream event for runners, took place in the capital. As the only platinum label race in Korea, the event drew an impressive 40,000 participants, recording the highest number in history. Platinum label race refers to its status as a top-tier, internationally recognized race certified by World Athletics. Now, under World Athletics labeling system, road races are ranked as bronze, silver, bronze, and platinum, the highest level. So it has to meet very strict criteria to hold such a marathon event, again highlighting the significance of this whole marathon. Notably, international participation also surged, surpassing 6,000 runners, an increase of more than 70% compared to last year. And in fact, March alone saw around 20 marathon events held nationwide, up about 7 from the same period last year, with a few more going to be held over this weekend, actually. And the rise reflects the continued popularity of running, particularly among the younger generations or the MZ generation, as we have seen over the past few years, the growing numbers in running crews. Like a lot of people who actually join this running community to running groups to keep themselves more motivated. And I guess there are perks in this kind of community because after you go for a run, you eat, you can drink, you can mingle and socialize. So there are many good things to just running crews other than just running.
I feel like in Korea, it's almost become its own culture. You see it everywhere. Like we both live near Seokcheon Lake, and you see a lot of
many running crews.
So these numbers really show how mainstream running has become. It's not just a niche interest anymore, and this momentum didn't just happen overnight. So how long has this running boom been going on, would you?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, this intersecting with cost-effective trend during an era of high inflation. Running surged in a popularity as a relatively inexpensive alternative to pandemic-era favorites like golf and tennis. Running is relatively cheap compared to other sports because theoretically all you need are shoes and sportswear. You can just dress up like how Gion is dressed up today and just go out for a run. Additionally, it is very easy to share your hard work to your friends on social media by just sharing your running routes and your running stats. This craze has only continued, thus establishing running as a premier sport for the MZ generation, with South Korea's running population now estimated at around 10 million. And also these related market is expanding rapidly as a result. Certain running shoes sectors have more than tripled in size, and specific department stores have even opened dedicated retail hubs exclusively for runners.
And that really explains why running has stuck around. It's accessible, affordable, now part of a lifestyle now. And with that popularity, we're seeing some pretty creative trends emerge, I hear. So what are some unique, running challenges out there?
So there is a butter run challenge. Have you heard of that?
Has anything to do with BTS by any chance?
It's not that smooth like butter. Not like BTS butter, but it is a challenge that's going viral among many young people across social media, where participants, they turn heavy cream into homemade butter during their run. So what they do is they pour heavy cream into a Ziploc bag, add a bit of salt, throw it inside their running vest or a small backpack. They keep running until the butter actually churns, as the constant jostling and sloshing action of running mimics the traditional butter churn. So after a good 10-kilometer run, so you have to run at least 10 kilometers for the heavy cream to turn into butter. The cream should solidify into a usable batch of butter. What they do is they then spread the butter on bread or toast and treat themselves to finish the actual challenge. And they use hashtags like butter run or churn and burn.
Wow. Okay.
And it fits the perfect trend of combining fitness with food, along with easy to follow challenge format. And it shows results immediately. So I guess all these elements really garnered a lot of attention from young people, especially on social media, because I mean, it's going to be a long run, but the video itself is going to be very short, and it shows immediate results, and I guess satisfaction as well.
When you first started talking about this, we talked a lot of trends on NewsGen. This I felt like was one of the most random. I think it's up there in terms of randomness. But I mean, I guess it works because...
But it actually combines those good elements of food and fitness, which everyone loves, right?
And they can actually apply it to their toast after their run.
Exactly,
or a snack.
And you can visually show it to people around the world, saying, hey, I did this. I made butter myself by running 10Ks. I mean, what more can you ask for?
Right, exactly. So, I mean, that's definitely a fun twist, turning a run into something almost experimental. But as with any fast-growing trend, not all reactions have been positive. So, what kind of complaints are people making about runners or marathons, Minju?
Oh, there are pretty many complaints, as running continues to surge in popularity. Complaints against certain runners are also on the rise, with running crews frequently criticized for monopolizing roads and creating noise disturbances. Furthermore, a recent influx of spring marathon events has led to widespread weekend traffic controls across Seoul, prompting growing frustration among inconvenienced citizens. In fact, traffic-related complaints filed with the Seoul call center skyrocketed from just 40 cases in 2021 to 400 last year, about 10 times. In response, the Seoul Metropolitan Government introduced guidelines to mitigate this kind of issues, such as advancing race start time or restricting participant numbers at major locations. But critics argue that these kind of measures have yielded only minimal results.
I mean, I can kind of relate to this. I actually live in an area where it gets shut down. Part of it gets shut down because of the marathons.
Yeah.
So it gets a bit inconvenient sometimes when I want to go somewhere and the buses don't work. So I do understand the sentiment a bit. So I mean, I'm guessing so. It really shows how something positive can also create friction when it grows this quickly. So finding that balance will be key moving forward. And to gain a more personal perspective on this, we're going to be joined by a runner who has taken part in marathons around the world. And that conversation is coming out right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Ayub, a runner who's taken part in races around the world. So hello, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. And also, so what first got you into running, and how often do you run these days?
I started running during the COVID period in 2020. At the time, gyms were closed and social activity quite limited. So I was looking for a simple way to stay active and healthy. And running was the easiest, especially as a friend of mine invited me to run. So what started as a way to stay healthy quickly turned around into a real passion. And these days I usually run around 4 times a week. And I try to keep a good balance between conversational easy runs, long runs, and some higher intensity sessions. And I also include some strength and recovery, which are really important to avoid injury.
Wow, you sound like a true athlete. You run one more than me a week. Which marathons have you run so far, and how does Korea's marathons compare to those around the world?
I've had the chance to run in several cities around the world, in Kyoto, San Francisco, Vancouver, Da Nang. And of course, I've done many races in Korea, including the famous Seoul and Chuncheon marathons. Every country has its own culture and strengths, so it's difficult to compare, but countries like Japan or the US, where the running culture has been established for longer, marathons feel like festivals where the whole city stops for a day. You see families, kids, elderly lying in the streets and cheering, which creates a really great atmosphere. In Korea, running has been growing very quickly, and you mentioned a marathon craze. There are definitely more races, more running crews, and a lot of more runners around me. With this rapid growth, has been naturally some trial and error in organization, but I've seen clear improvements over the years. For example, the recent Seoul Marathon, there has been a lot of ideas I've seen from overseas, such as remembering water stations and handing over ponchos before and after the race. At the same time, there's still some challenges. You mentioned congestion and traffic control. So we need to find a really good balance as the running population continues to grow. But of course, as the energy from the running community in Korea is really special, there has been a lot of recent trends. You mentioned some of them, but other trends are High Rocks, which combines running and workouts. And also, I could see recently that a lot of Korean runners have been getting more disciplined and a lot of structure in training through running classes and clubs.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it is also true that South Korea has been, the running popularity has been increasing. One thing, what do you think is the biggest pros and cons of running?
For me, the biggest advantage of running that is simple but powerful. It improves your physical health, clears your mind, and gives you a really strong sense of achievement. It can be social or individual depending on preference. And also personally, after a long work day, running helps me reset and it clears my head, gives me new energy. And being part of this community for me has been a big part of that. I've built meaningful connections, I've grown healthier and stronger together with others. And I have been involved in several run trips, which is also a new trend where people travel together for races in Korea or overseas. On the downside, running, as with any other sport, can be physically demanding if not careful. So injuries are quite common if you push too hard or don't give much time for recovery. So a gradual and structured approach is recommended, and starting with the basics can help. Overall, I think that the benefits far outweigh the downsides, especially if you approach running in a balanced and sustainable way.
All right, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just heard from a marathon runner about what first got him into running, how Korea's marathons compare globally, and what the biggest pros and cons of running are. So beyond that personal perspective, there's clearly a generational trend at play here. So why are young people in particular so drawn to running these days?
For MZ generation, running has taken on a meaning that goes beyond just a simple health trend. Living an active, healthy lifestyle is seen as a symbol of being hip or like really cool, as well as a source of small but meaningful achievements in a world that we're currently living in right now, full of uncertainty. Running in particular offers a simple and low-cost way of building a sense of self-efficacy as well. Now, for me personally, I prefer running alone because it's one of the best ways to keep myself motivated and refreshed, like what Ayub said, not having to worry about others. Beyond all the health benefits, I like to extend the distance and increase my speed, trying to beat my previous records. It becomes a source of like a self-challenge because I personally truly believe the person I need to beat and overcome is not others, but myself.
That's a great line. I'll be using that.
Quote of the day.
The idea of running as more than just exercise is really interesting, and also seems like the culture around marathons themselves is evolving. So how are marathons in Korea, Moonju, taking on a broader social meaning these days?
Yeah, so domestic marathon events are increasingly evolving beyond, simple health promotion, transforming into communicative platforms that embody core values like social contribution and disability awareness. In practice, many of these events now donate their entire participation fee to social causes or organize inclusive races where everyone, regardless of physical ability, runs and cheers together to foster better understandings. For the MZ generation, in fact, a demographic that highly prioritizes, value-driven initiatives, simply participating in this kind of events or a marathon kind of shift in culture carries a deeply positive significance, I think.
Right, so it's not just about fitness, but also about purpose and participation. And with spring now in full swing, many people will be looking to get started. So with April coming up, what are some great places to enjoy a run?
There are actually quite a few great places to go for a run, both providing accessibility and also like beauty as well, scenic wise. First is the Han River, particularly in Yeouido, Banpo, Tuksong, and Jamsil area, as the courses are relatively flat and long, which is attractive to beginners. There are convenience stores in these spots specifically catered for runners, providing unmanned lockers, rest areas, or even powder rooms for men and women to freshen up after their run. And during springtime, if you want a beautiful cherry blossom running course, I recommend Seokchon Lake in Jamsil, 서울숲 in Seongsu-dong, and Namsan Park in Namsan. You may find yourself taking selfies instead of actually going for a run, because I've been to many of these places during springtime and they are just so beautiful. But please keep in mind that there'll be a lot of people which can hinder you from actually going for a proper run. So what I do is go at nighttime when there's like less people, but same scenery, beautiful scenery, although it's a little dark, but there are lights there. So if you want to go for a run and look around cherry blossoms, maybe early in the morning or late at night.
Apparently cherry blossoms will be in full bloom starting April 3rd.
April 3rd.
So I guess that's when you should visit these spots. So, but as more people join in, doing it the right way becomes just as important. So what should people keep in mind to run safely and responsibility this season?
Yeah, the most important aspect, I believe, is observing social etiquette, and more than often, running routes or the public spaces shared with other citizens, and runners should always keep this in mind and behave accordingly, I think. And furthermore, people run to enhance their health, not to like ruin it, and there have been some kind of incidents or accidents that has been related to marathon courses with vehicle accidents and stuff. So I think the safety issue is the most important part here. Without proper stretching also and safety precautions, I think runners are going to risk injury, which completely defeats the intrinsic purpose of this activity, which is enhancing your health. So I think safety is your priority.
Agreed. So marathons may start as a personal challenge, but in Korea, they've grown into something much bigger. From citywide races to cause-driven events, they're bringing people together in meaningful ways. And as the spring marathon season picks up, it might just be the perfect time to hit the ground running at your own pace. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back on Monday at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Q.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. Also, Munju.
My pleasure.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Whether it's a full marathon or just a walk to your bed, we hope you keep it moving this weekend. We are News Generation.
Curious about Korea?
And especially K-food? How familiar are you with Korean food? The sea on 3 sides, a mountainous terrain, and 4 distinct seasons. Thanks to these conditions, Korean cuisine bursts with diverse and unique flavors.
Do you prefer sweet or spicy?
A meat lover or a seafood connoisseur?
Can't decide?
There's got to be something here that you like.
For Koreans, rice is foundational. It's a staple and the centerpiece to all meals in Korea. There's bibimbap, rice mixed with vegetables, gukbap, rice in hot soup, and gimbap is the demand around the world.
For me, it's noodles over rice. Korea has amazing noodle dishes. Chuyi ramen and cold naengmyeon to blow away the heat. A meat lover here, pork, beef, chicken, I like them all. Did you know that bulgogi is listed in the English dictionary? There's also the famous chimek, chicken and beer, which is the best combo for a night out with friends.
Surrounded by the sea on 3 sides, Korea has a great selection of seafood, from raw fish to piping hot seafood soups. It's mouth-watering just talking about it. The 2 pillars of Korean condiments, gochujang and soy sauce.
Ooh, what do you prefer?
Gochujang